Your whole life, you've always believed that you need more willpower to avoid the bad habits and to do the good ones. But that is a lie. I'm going to explain why it's a lie and what you can actually do to diffuse procrastination without using willpower. I spoke to a brother recently, and he's still in university, and he said that he's fallen far behind on his lectures and that he wants to study 8 hours straight to catch up. And I told him, "Have you ever done that before?" Like, no. I'm like, that is the most unrealistic expectation if you've never done that before. Don't get me wrong, it's great to have high standards, but also don't fall for the trap of being delusional. Because right now, your action taking skill is at level 1. And I don't mean to offend you, but if we're just trying to be realistic, not idealistic, your action taking skill is at level 1. But the good news is that, like a video game, you can upgrade your skills, right? The problem is that you're imagining yourself to be the guy who's at level 50. Like, that guy can work 8 hours straight. He doesn't procrastinate. Pure productivity. But what you're telling yourself is that you should be able to work as much as this guy who's up here, who used to be at level 1, but gradually worked up to level 50. And so you keep finding yourself procrastinating and not taking action. So you tell yourself, just more willpower, more willpower. But that doesn't work, does it? You've already lost the battle before you even started taking action. It's very common that we overestimate how much willpower we have and how much self control we think we have. In our minds, we think we're all geniuses and that we're super mentally tough. But when the time comes to do the work, we cop out. What happens is we overestimate how much willpower we have and our ability to control ourselves from temptations and from distractions. In our minds, we're this super mentally tough David Goggins type guy. And like we think we're all geniuses. But when the time to work comes, we all just cop out. So this is a quick action step for you. What I want you to do is just recall your most recent work session. How long did you remain focused before you got distracted? Maybe you worked for an hour, but you kind of noticed that after the 30-minute mark, your focus dropped by 50%, went from 100 to 50, right? And then it felt really hard to finish the second half of the hour. And it might hurt your ego, just be like, dang, man, subhanAllah, I can only actually work for 30 minutes without getting distracted. But that's okay because now we're being realistic. Now we know where you're currently at. And now what we can do is take actionable steps to gradually build up to that guy who's at level 50, who can work 8 hours straight, who can take action without procrastinating. Once you figure out your capacity to work, which is just how long you can work without getting distracted, the next most important thing to understand is that imagination beats willpower. Let's analyze what just happened for a second. Like, why is it that it doesn't take any effort or any willpower to indulge in the habit of scrolling on YouTube or playing video games? Why does it take so much effort and willpower to do the good stuff? Like habits that we know are good for us, we know are good for our deen, for our health. Why is it so hard, right? There's something we're not understanding about willpower. It doesn't take any willpower to do the bad habits. Why? Because without you realizing, your imagination is in play 24/7. You're automatically imagining doing the bad habits and you imagine it to be fun and low effort. Like your brain is calculating all of this without you realizing. But when you imagine doing the good habits that we inherently know is good for us, like working out or studying, working on business, when we imagine ourselves doing the good stuff, we imagine them to be hard, boring, and it takes a lot of effort. And that's how your brain works. It's naturally wired to save you as much energy as possible. And so when you're at that fork in the road where you're deciding, scroll on YouTube or study, Like there's this debate that's going on in your head, like, okay, studying is hard. This is like what your brain says. Like studying is hard. It will take a lot of energy to complete. But scrolling on YouTube, it's pretty easy. It won't take that much energy to complete the task. So you know what? It will just naturally be pulled towards the easier option. So that's kind of what's happening with your imagination with the bad habits. So the question is, how can we use our imagination to get ourselves to be productive without using willpower with the good habits? And so what we want to do is, when you find yourself in the fork in the road, debating whether you should do the bad habit or do the good habit, what we want to do is use the law of least effort, which says that make the next step so easy to do that you'd almost feel dumb not doing it, right? But be careful though. Don't imagine yourself doing what you should do. Imagine yourself doing what you can do, right? What you're capable of, being realistic. It might even hurt your ego a bit, but that's okay. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're tempted to scroll on YouTube, but you really know you should study, right? Like we now know that setting an unrealistic expectation, which is like the wrong way of thinking, which would be like, yeah, I'm gonna study for 8 hours, I'm gonna pull an all-nighter, I'm gonna just sit down, do it one shot, I'm gonna study all day. And it's gonna result in you procrastinating even more, right? So what we want to do is, here's scrolling on YouTube, and here's wanting to study. Let's pretend there's a line that connects to each other. What we want to do is meet halfway. Like, what's the next step that we can take? How can we make it so easy for ourselves that we'd feel dumb not doing it? So what I used to do was just be like, okay, I understand that I'm messing myself up by saying I'm going to study for X amount of hours. I know I actually can't do that. So you know what? What I can do, guaranteed right here, right now, is just take the books out of my bag, take the paper, the worksheet out, have the pencil ready, and I'll just set up my desk space so that when the time actually comes to work, everything is already ready. And so after I set up everything, right? But again, we overestimate ourselves sometimes, right? And that's what's messing us up in the first place. So we want to be realistic, even if it hurts our ego. Just from a scientific perspective and from some of the books that I've read on procrastination, says that once you take that next step, that's what creates the momentum and motivation. Because motivation comes from movement. Remember that line we have here? You started here. That was the first step. You met in the middle. You're realistic. You did what you can. And so what the science is saying is that once you take that first step, you're more likely to take that next step, and then that next step, until you end up achieving the outcome that you desired in the first place. Because remember, your brain is trying to save energy, and it was going to naturally choose the thing that requires the least amount of effort, right? So if you're making the next step easy for yourself to do, then you're going to save yourself energy, you're going to lower the resistance, and you're not going to need that much willpower to do it. It might hurt your ego a little bit, but you have to be realistic. Don't be like the guy who just started lifting weights and thinks he can bench 300 pounds. That's unrealistic. Like you might laugh at that guy, but that's you. That's you're carrying that mindset into being procrastination and being productive. So just be careful. Now, see, you have an overpowered tactic to diffuse procrastination, but you're not gonna apply it because that's how YouTube works. You feel productive watching this video. You might have even felt motivated. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn how to be procrastination and be productive. But you're not gonna apply it. It's hard to take action when you've just learned something like this. And so you're just gonna go back to your normal routine and procrastinate. Unless you apply what I told you. To use the law of least effort and to make the next step as easy as possible. And it's realistic to your current level. Apply this, and inshallah, you'll experience it for yourself. That's it for today. Assalamu alaikum.